Round 3 of the FIA GT1 World Championship took place in Portimao, and the two JR Motorsport Nissans led away from the front row at the start of the race, while their rivals jostled for position behind. A lunge from the Corvette of Hazemans and Katzberg spun the number 41 Ford of Claret and Martin. But up front, Richard Westbrook was building a comfortable lead in his Nissan, with the sister car of Lucas Luhr in second and the Aston Martin of Stefan Mucker in third. As the pit window opened, the second-placed car of Luhr was in straight away, and teammate Michael Krum took over, hoping some fast outlaps would narrow the gap. Westbrook stayed out a bit longer, while the Brazilian car of Zonta and Bernoldi was unable to make much progress. Richard Westbrook, though, up front with a lead of some 6 seconds before those stops had been made, finally came in to swap over to Peter Dumbreck. The pit stop went well. Michael Krum was charging down the pit straight, only to see Peter Dumbreck come out ahead of him. Unfortunately, however, Westbrook, out of that car, had serious concerns about high gearbox temperatures. And sure enough, despite Dumbreck's best efforts to nurse the car, the problem worsened, allowing Krum to take the lead. Ultimately, Dumbreck was forced to pull over to the side of the track. The gearbox had gone completely, and there was no way he could continue. It was an utterly shattering result for the fastest drivers of the weekend. Michael Krum duly claimed the first championship race win of the season for Nissan, with Darren Turner holding on to second from the Sumo Power Nissan of David Brabham, who claimed his second podium of the weekend. Lucas Luhr celebrated his first ever victory in the series, and the German pairing seems to be hitting their best form at a crucial stage in the season. Both JR Motorsports and Sumo Power were represented on the podium, while young driver Aston collected very useful points. And now we've moved 3,000 kilometres to the east, to the Sachsenring. And Aston Martin, the Hexis team, is still leading the team's classification, but by the narrowest of margins. Their 1-point lead over JR Motorsports and Al Inkel arises as a result of scoring just 4 points last weekend, and they need to get back on form. For the young driver team, this is the home race, with plenty of guests hoping that Muller and Enger have better luck. In the other car, Darren Turner and Stefan Mucker enjoyed a good result last time out.
To finish second in Portimao, we didn't expect that. Now on my home track, I want to do the same. I want to finish on the podium. It will be very, very tough. We have 20 kilos of ballast on board, and that's not a Aston track, I have to say. First sector, a lot of corners, not very good for us. But yeah, we will do our best, and hopefully we can finish again on the podium.
The Corvette has lost a little bit of weight for this weekend and could prove to be very competitive. The ex-Bank Team China car only scored 2 points in Portimao, but Mike Hazemans and Nick Katzberg are confident that their front-engine V8 Z06 will suit the fast corners here.
The track is new to me, but it seems like it's a track well suited for the Corvette. We need to see in free practice, but I think we can do it this weekend.
Ford struggled to earn much out of the last event, especially with a post-race penalty affecting the Bas Linders Mark Henrici car, dropping them to 10th. Maxime Martin scored just 1 point, and he'll be happy to have Fred Makovicky back with him here. Over at Belgian Racing, Vanina Ix and Christopher Nygaard remain together for a second event, while Jan Claret has jumped out of a Mark BDS Ford and into the bright yellow version to drive alongside Antoine Leclerc.
Was not so bad. We just move of the Ford GT, but it's the same car, and it's a new team, the new guys, but everybody is very ready to the fight, to finish in the top 10 for Belgium Racing. My teammate, he was so good, it's a French guy like me, and I hope to make a good result in the qualification, and it's most important to finish the race championship, and we will see.
Lamborghini's season has been a seesaw affair, with the Swiss racing team failing to score points with one car, yet earning consistently with the Wendlinger Peter Cox machine, and Cox is one of the few drivers to have raced here before. The Al Inkel pairing of Schwager and Pastorelli finally put some points on the board in the Algarve. Their teammates Basseng and Marcus Winkelhock continue to lead the championship, but are not particularly confident about their chances here on home turf.
As a German driver, the only German race we have this year, I think the track doesn't fit perfectly to the Lamborghini, and then we have 45 kilos in the car, that doesn't help. But anyway, our whole team is motivated, and we are looking for the home race.
And finally, Nissan. JR Motorsports had a fantastic weekend, scoring a total of 39 points to leap up to second in the team's championship, despite that non-finish of Westbrook and Dumbreck. And Krum and Luhr put themselves joint second in the drivers' title race. Sumo Power scored well with one car. Brabham and Campbell Walter will hope to repeat their podiums, while Enrique Bernoldi's having to learn how to speak Geordie, as Warren Hughes has replaced Ricardo Zonta.
Right now the deal is for this weekend, but I hope I can make a big impression again on the team. JRM have had the lion's share of the Nissan glory this year. It's very much at the forefront of our minds, and certainly I'd like to change that very much.
We wait. That's what we do. For 60 minutes, the driver battled out on the track, but we know our time is coming. For 25 seconds, the race is in our hands. There can be no mistakes. They cost time. We prepare, we focus, we test, and we wait. And sometimes we make the difference.
It's time for the qualifying race from the Sachsenring in Germany. Hello and welcome from me, Ben Edwards. Johnny Herbert's with me in the commentary box. And Hayley Coxon is down on the grid and in the pits reporting on what's going on down there. And I have to tell you, there was a story straight after qualifying today. The Corvette, which we thought had taken pole position, actually lost its fastest time and will not be starting on pole position. To find out more, Hayley Coxon spoke to Mike Hazemans just a few moments ago.
Mike, unfortunately, pole was taken from you. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, we just came in the pits and then we changed the tires. We want to go for another run, and that was not allowed. So then they asked me to come back in the pit. No pole, so we are back in 7.
Best of luck, thank you.
Well, he's still got a smile on his face, Johnny, but it's a big blow, isn't it? Because that Corvette was flying this morning. They had pole, and they threw it away on a basic infringement of the rules. It wasn't as if they'd done anything particularly wrong, but the rules are there. You're not allowed to stop at your pit box and go back out in that session without losing the times up to that point.
Exactly, losing those times. Sorry about that. Losing those times up to that point, yes. And of course, being he went out again, he lost his fastest lap. So. On the 7th position, 4th row, they've made their job a little bit harder for themselves.
What it means is pole has now gone to the Al Inkel Lamborghini at the bottom of the picture there, the number 37 car of Dominic Schwager and Nicky Pastorelli. Pastorelli due to start that car, alongside Clivio Piccioni in the Hexis Aston Martin. And then on the 2nd row, it'll be Darren Turner in the Aston and Enrique Bernoldi in the Nissan. Track temperature has climbed a bit since the early qualifying session this morning, now up to 36 degrees. It's a pleasant day. We've got a little bit of cloud around, also some blue sky, and as we make our way down the grid, you've got a good view above of just a bit of cloud around. Doesn't look as though there's too much threat of rain, though, as we prepare for this 1-hour race. And other cars to watch for, Johnny, particularly the number 41 Ford GT. It's back on the 6th row, but that was one of the fastest cars this morning, and it went off.
It went off, and exactly, and because it went off, it lost its time again. So, and they never went through to the next round. So again, 14th, 6th row. It's going to be very, very tough. It's a very, very tough circuit here at Sachsenring to overtake in the race.
So that's something they're going to be wary of. It's also tight. We went out in a Nissan GTR during the break between qualifying this morning and this race. What we also noticed, of course, is the first few corners are very tight for space, aren't they?
And they're very technical as well. So the space is one thing. We've got to have all these cars, 17 cars, going into the first corner, which is very, very tight. Then it sort of drops down. And I know some of the drivers have been saying into turn 3, which is a tight sort of hairpin, you can overtake there. So I think there's going to be a lot of action.
Right, it's good to see the fans gathered here to watch what's going to happen. It's the first time, of course, GT1 World Championships been to the Sachsenring, and as they go away on their formation lap, let's just check away all the cars here, make sure they're off the grid cleanly. It will be rolling start next time around. Not an easy rolling start to call either, because the road climbs up over a slight brow out of the last corner, and that will make life difficult. So let's run you through the grid lineup then. It is the Al Inkel car, the alinkel.com Munich Motorsport Lamborghini that's on pole position, driven by Nicky Pastorelli. Giulio Piccioni's alongside in the Aston Martin. On the second row of the grid, we've got another Aston Martin, the car of Darren Turner, and Bernoldi in the Nissan. Good qualifying effort from both him and Hughes. Third row, we've got the Dumbrek Nissan and Marco Narici in the Ford. Bit disappointing with qualifying, they should have been further up. There's the Corvette, which was so fast. Michael Krum is next door in a Nissan. Back on the fifth row, we've got Alex Muller and Jamie Campbell-Walter, Aston versus Nissan. Antoine Leclerc starts the Ford from 11th place. Fred Makovicky, he could come through from 12th. Championship leader Mark Basseng all the way back in 13th. He's got Christopher Nygaard next door. Row 8, we've got Jiri Janak in the Lamborghini and Andrea Piccini, who damaged his car this morning. And on his own at the back is Peter Cox. Now that's as a result of Wendlinger picking up a 10-place grid penalty for overtaking under red flag in qualifying this morning. So that's why the Peter Cox Carl Wendlinger car starts at the very, very back of the grid. Looking around the track, here we are, Johnny, on the formation lap. As I said, we went round earlier. Fans will be able to watch our lap actually at GT1world.com. Later on over the weekend, we'll put that up on the website. And don't forget, if you want to watch live timing and scoring while this race is underway, same place, GT1world.com. But a couple of places where it's really quite hard to pick your line on those fast corners. Yeah, there certainly is. And I think from turn 6... effectively all the way around to turn 13, that is the quick corners, and especially into turn 9, I think, as we saw, there's no curb on the inside, so it's very difficult to actually pinpoint where you need to be on the track. Turn 10 again is over a brow, is quite difficult as well, and even turn 11, which is pretty much a sort of a little kink, but again you cannot see the apex, so it's a tough little course. Well, let's see what's going to happen here. The cars are coming out of the final corner. We're all set for this qualifying race at the Sachsenring to get underway. Perfect conditions, and here we go. They're charging down towards the first corner, and Nicky Pastorelli in the Lamborghini's got the advantage over Piccioni in the Aston Martin. Darren Turner's trying to come down the inside in his Aston Martin. There's a bit of brake locking. Oh, Ford in trouble there, but oh, and there's one facing the wrong way, and it's hit by another Ford, one of the Mark VDS cars. I think that's going to be Henrici, who's been hit by the number 9 car of Christopher Nygaard. What a disaster for the sister teams running the Fords there. But Pastorelli's got away. Piccioni's in second place in his Aston Martin. Darren Turner's holding on to third place. And the instant we thought there would be something, Johnny, it seems to have happened about, well, 2/3 of the way down the field, probably. Yeah, I think it was someone down the inside clipped the back of the GT40 and they just spun the thing round, and then after, unfortunately, got collected once again, which we see that... It is the number 40 car, Mark Henrici. I thought it was. Shame. That's the car he shares with Bas Linders. They are not having any luck this year at all. And again, it's gone wrong for them. So, a lot of work to be done there. As up front, the Al Inkel Lamborghini of Nicky Pastorelli has survived another lap. By the looks of things, they have got yellows waving. I wonder if the safety car... No, I don't... Yes, the safety car has been called. So the safety car has been called out as a result of those cars off down at the first turn. Everyone bunches back up together, and they've got to try and move these cars out of the way. So the number 9 car there, Christopher Nygaard, the car he shares with Vanina X. So it doesn't look like she's going to get a run in this qualifying race. And the other car involved is that of Mark Henrici. He would have been handing over to Bas Linders at the halfway stage. Not going to happen. And at the end of the first lap, it is the Nicky Pastorelli Lamborghini. It has completed a lap. First time he's managed that from pole position this year, although he did get quite a few laps under his belt at Portimao last week. But the Aston Martins behind him, both looking pretty strong, Johnny. No, definitely so. They sort of, I think they showed their sort of nearly their full hand of cards in qualifying, and they put in some very good, strong performances. So from that point, it could lead them on to a good race. Let's try and spot what is going on. Now, the Ford that ended up in trouble's in the middle. Down the inside went Nygaard. Oh, that's where there was contact made, I think, wasn't there? Yeah, I think it was the sister car. Oh, yes, you're right. I think it was the sister car that sort of started the yellow GT40 there. I think that was the one that flicked the back. Started things. The number 10 car. You can see it locked. It's wiggling. There's a lock. There's a movement. Yeah. And I think it hits the contacts there. And unfortunately, his sister car then, bang. Oh, my goodness. So, effectively, the mistake came from the first yellow car, the number 10 car, and it's caused the problem for the other two. So absolutely miserable time for the Ford GTs, and this is going to be a Ford track. That was Peter Cox avoiding action at the first corner, going right on the grass as he tried to avoid the incident on the inside, and
there's the damage.
Oh my goodness. You know, we were down the pits, the Ford guys were looking confident this weekend. Yes, a couple of them got into spins this morning. The car was obviously quite edgy, but they knew it was going to be fast, but we've lost 2 of them already. A third one was involved in the incident. I mean, this is horrible. The other one that's left, way down in the field because of the spin they had in qualifying. So Fred McAvicky's down in 12th place at the moment. The other car that sort of was involved in initiating that, Antoine Leclerc, he's still running. He's in 9th place. But can you believe what a start to the day it is?
Well, it's not the best. I think in some regard, I think we were talking about there was probably going to be this big chance of contact into turn 1. We did get it. Probably didn't get, fortunately, as much, I think, as we expected, especially at the sharp end. So at least we've got the front runners without any issues.
Oh, so not the ideal getaway to this qualifying race, but let's just focus on where everybody else is now as they come across the line. Under safety car again, it is Nicky Pastorelli in the Lamborghini, the Al Inkel car. He's followed by the Hexus Aston Martin of Clivio Piccioni, then Darren Turner in the young driver Aston Martin. Then it's Enrique Benoldi in the first of the Nissans, followed by Alex Muller, chased by Peter Dumbreck, and behind him Michael Krum, winner last time out. The Corvette didn't make a lot of ground on the first lap. Another look at the start. This is on board the Lamborghini, the second Lamborghini of Mark Basseng, I think. No, in fact, that's on board the Lamborghini. That's number 5 car. Sorry, yeah, that's the Peter Cox car on the grass. That was our headlight camera in the number 5 car. Let's just take another look on the inside there, Johnny.
There's a bit of clattering going on there, and then it just spins around the car. So again, this is always the thing about the starts of these types of racing. You've got to be so aware of what's going on in front of you, and obviously there, you know, he was just out of control, really, far too early. Couldn't stop, brake too late, and crash into the side, and then taking out the 2 and his teammate, GT40s.
Yeah, so that was Antoine. There's a rather resigned-looking Vanina X, and she must be thinking, what do I have to do to get a decent run? Things have been going wrong virtually every time out for the Belgian racing cars, and they actually managed to hit each other at Zolder as well. So it's not been a good time for them, and this time they've got involved with one of their sister team cars as well. Lights out on the safety car. We are ready to go racing once again. We've obviously ticked away a few minutes of this race already. Nicky Pastorelli will have the opportunity to try and open up that gap over the 2 Aston Martins that are ganging up behind him. Then the Nissan of Bernoldi, another Aston. Safety car comes in, up through the final corner they go, and 650 horsepower from each of these cars laid down onto the tarmac as they come across the line. Somebody kicking up the dust in the background. Good restart from Nicky Pastorelli, although Piccioni's just having a little look. Benoldi locks it up, and the Nissan gets a bit out of shape. Alex Muller trying to take advantage. There's Leclerc, who's still going in the yellow Ford, and he's almost been passed there, but not quite, by Marc Basseng in the Lamborghini behind him. Down through turn 3. This is all the tight and twisty section.
It is, and this is where it's quite tricky for these cars, especially this Lamborghini. It struggles for the first couple of corners with its front end, so it's got to get through here as clean as it can.
The Corvette nearly made a move there on the Nissan ahead. That's Katzberg trying to get past Michael Krum. You can see the bright red Corvette, very distinctive. He got his nose alongside the Nissan, then had to back out of it. So he at the moment hasn't moved up any further from 8th place. He's got Leclerc behind him. And then Fred McAvicky trying to make a move now in the Mark VDS Ford as they fan out. Don't forget that Enrique Benoldi sitting in 4th place in his Nissan. He'll be handing over to Warren Hughes later on, who's back in the series. On board that Corvette now with the youngster Nicky Katzberg, who's impressed us so much. What can he do about getting past Michael Krum, one of the most experienced drivers out there?
Yeah, well, like you say, Ben, Nicky's done a very, very good job. He's got a very good car underneath him at the moment. He's just got to sort of put the pressure on and that Nissan in front of him. And if he can do that, be consistent, keep that pressure there. He's quite close coming out of the last turn. There he is trying to pull out.
Yeah, Darren Turner was a bit slow out of the last corner.
But he's held on there.
Yeah, so he's held on to 3rd from Benoldi.
Nicky's having a look there.
He did have a look. Nicky Katzberg has got his nose alongside that Nissan in the background. Look, Katzberg's trying to do it, but you're riding with him.
This is where the Nissan is bad. This is into turn 3, and down that inside. There you go. That's what you got to do. That Nissan is quite difficult to change direction, and a good pass.
Oh no! He's lost it! Oh, Nicky just just when he got past him, Nicky Katzberger's lost it. Did he get a touch, or was that just too much right foot on the throttle? Oh,
one of the other things. It'd be nice to see a real play. Big
Look at the faces.
Done all the hard work. Done all the hard work.
He'd done a lovely move on Michael Krum, and I don't know whether there was any contact. I don't think there was. I think he just got on the gas.
He just got on the gas.
Oh, that is horrible. Horrible for Nicky. And he and Mike Hazelmans, they were due to be on pole. Let's take a look at it on the onboard here, Johnny. Talk us through
Great work
here.
there. Again, he knows he needs to get down the inside of turn 3 here. The Nissan is very aware of that as well. Keeps it tight, nice and clean, keeping in there very well. So now he's got the line, and there we go, bang. There we go. Flicks it around. Again, restart, cold tyres. Got to be very careful.
And of course, if you run offline, as we've heard from anybody, and he had to run offline a bit to get past the other car.
Exactly, and it can collect a little bit of that sort of dirty parts of old rubber and dust that's there, and it just makes the car a little bit trickier. Big shame.
That was a reaction of one of his rivals. That was Steph Dusseldorp, who's going to be taking over the car currently in second. I should think a mixture of anguish and relief at that point.
I think.
Because everyone knows how fast that Corvette has been this weekend, and it is now out of the race. So that is one of the real potential winners out. We've still got the Lamborghini leading, of course, in the hands of Nicky Pastorelli. Piccioni still in second, Turner in third in his Aston Martin. Fourth place for Benoldi, fifth for Alex Muller in another of the young driver Aston. So Aston Martin's running very strongly in this race at the moment. Nissan's not bad. Dunbrecht sitting in sixth, Krum in seventh, Leclerc is in eighth. Here's a little potential move for Fred Macavicki. Macavicki gets up the inside, gets past the championship leader Marc Basset. That Ford is on a move, and it's what we expected to see. They were unlucky this morning, but it was a mistake from Maxime Martin that put them in the gravel. They didn't qualify where they should have done, and he's now beginning to make progress. Let's go down and hear now from Mike Hazelmans about what's been happening with that Corvette.
Mike, you guys seem to be performing so well, and then it seems to be getting taken away from you. Will it be okay for the race?
Yeah, I don't know. He just tried to overtake, and then he was too early on the power, so he spun. There is a very dangerous place, but now we have to start really from the back tomorrow. So from pole to really to the last. So not the best weekend.
Thank you.
What a shame. I mean, Nicky has been doing a great job, but at the end of the day, he's relatively inexperienced in these cars, and I suppose he just paid the price there.
Yeah, again, there's an experience for him, and hopefully he can learn from that.
Another move from Macavicki in the silver and burgundy Ford GT. He's just got past the yellow car of Antoine Leclerc. So Macavicki's made a couple of places. He's now up into 8th place.
Yeah, well, he's got a very early moves now, and he just needs to carry that on, and I think he's going to get himself into a great rhythm, gets in that rhythm, hopefully he can carry on. He's still closing, he's pulling away very quickly from the guys he's overtaken, and he's closing the gap on that those two Nissans.
Yeah, Michael Krum is the first one. I'll tell you what, one of the Nissan drivers yesterday reported that the Ford was able to go around the outside of him in some of the twiddly stuff, even though he was trying hard. So that Ford is brilliant in the tight sections. This is how he got past Leclerc. Talk us through it.
So this is turn 3. So he just gets another. He just runs a bit wide, slips up the inside, doesn't get on the power too early there, as we saw Nicky before, and cleanly pass.
There's Bats Linders and Mark Enrici. Well, they are out, I'm afraid, of this race. And, of course, Mark, a German driver, and on home turf, that's really not what he wanted. So, leader has got just a fractional advantage now, 3/4 of a second. But look, Macavicki now, he's caught the back of the Nissan of Michael Krum. And there's no denying that Fred Macavicki, the Frenchman, is right there. Look at him. Right into the rear bumper, virtually, of that Nissan.
Yeah, and this is where the Nissan is poor at the moment. They have a real big problem of changing direction. And you can see that they're really struggling to keep that full GT behind.
It's amazing we went from Portimao last week where the Nissan was dominant. I mean, hardly anyone could hold a candle to the Nissan. Totally different track here this weekend, and the roles are reversed. Yes, the Nissan's got a bit more weight on it, and actually bear in mind that Michael Krum Nissan ahead of him is also carrying success ballast, so it's the heavier of the Nissans out there as well, just to make life even more difficult.
Yeah, well, this is going onto the back straight, turn 11, coming down to turn 12, 2 from home. Very long straight, fastest part of the circuit. Long, all these corners, fast corners are very, very long, which is very, very hard on the tyre. Going into turn 13, the last turn. And this is where now he needs to be very close, but because we're going into turn 1, 2, 3, where he has a chance to pass that Nissan. I think especially it seems to be into turn 3 itself.
So let's watch him down into turn 1 here as he closes up behind. That's actually slightly further back. That's Leclerc chased by Basseng. And we're back on board with Makovic. Wasn't close enough there, was he?
No, there you go. This is where he might, not quite this lap, but he just needs to keep that pressure there. You see where that Nissan is really sort of moving around.
Nicky Katzberg walking back.
But it's close enough. We've got.
Oh, he's got a chance.
That's
Not
close.
quite.
It's amazing how long. You see how it's turn. Such a long turn there. But you can see that fault looks very, very secure.
And that's early in the race as well. As the tyres start to go away, it might be even stronger. But Michael Krum, winner last time out, is not going to give up that place at all easily. Up ahead is Peter Dumbreck in the car he shares with Richard Westbrook. Dumbreck has raced here in the past, back in the early 2000s when he was very competitive here in DTM, in fact. But Fred Makovic has just dropped back a little bit on this lap on Michael Krum. Don't know whether he made a mistake or something.
I'm guessing he did, because he was quite close before in the shot we saw. So you can see he's closing the gap sort of quite quickly, even by dropping that far back. But I think overall he's definitely got pace, and he'll be definitely one to be watching.
So, again, working at the steering wheel as the race leader, Pastorelli, crosses the line with a 1.1 second advantage over Piccioni and Turner in the Astons. Then the Nissan at Bernaldi. Then they're followed by Muller. Then the 2 Nissans that this car is chasing. So Fred Makovic, who didn't get out in qualifying at all as a result of his teammate going off the track just after this next section, actually. It was going through turn 3 and 4, the exit of 3 up towards turn 4 that Maxime Martin went off. And so he dropped back a little bit on that lap, did Makovic. Now he's got the task of closing them down.
You can see that front end. See how that front is really, really close, and now he's able to just get close enough.
Let's go and hear now from Fred's teammate, who will take over, Maxime Martin.
Maxime, we're just watching on board with Fred there. Can you talk us through the lap?
Yeah, it's looking good. The car is looking quite well. We did a quite good start, so we hope we can do a good job with the pit stop, and then we will see for the end of the race.
After 2 cars going out, it's definitely great seeing Fred picking up such great times in the Ford GT.
Yeah, it's really well, because we had some troubles in Portimao. Here we're come back, so okay, we had some bad luck in the qualifying, but we hope to be good at the end of the race.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elite. He's having a little look into the last corner. I wondered if he was close enough, and Krum gives him space there. Real opportunity. Good racing from both of them.
Absolutely, and I think he's just giving that pressure, and I think it's something that worked in his favour there. Now he's closer than what he was in the last couple of laps.
Here we go.
Yeah, I think he's through, no problem. There you go. Very nicely done, and on the move again.
So Makovic claims the scalp of last week's winner, Michael Krum. Nothing Michael could do about that, and you could almost see him not deciding, I'm not going to fight this too hard. He's got a heavier car, Krum, with a little bit more ballast. He's got to think forward to the championship race tomorrow.
And you can see how he's already pulled away from Michael, and he's already closed the gap in front, and he's going to be on that other Nissan in I think a corner or 2. That's all it's going to take. So he's very, very, very strong at the moment.
Yeah, that's Dumbreck that he's chasing now. Yeah. Meanwhile, the leader, Nicky Pastorelli's got away a bit from those 2 Aston Martins behind. There's Darren Turner in the number 8 car, just keeping his nose clean, staying out of trouble. That's important. Loves this circuit. He was buzzing after qualifying, absolutely buzzing. He was the fastest in Q2, wasn't he? And we saw him about an hour and a half later, and he was still buzzing.
Still buzzing, absolutely. Well, I think this is a buzzy track. It really does give you a thrill driving around here.
Stefan Rattel keeping an eye on progress of his of the FIA GT1 World Championship, his baby, of course, and watching them racing here at Sachsenring for the first time and putting on a good show so far. The Lamborghini leads from the 2 Aston Martins. The first of the Nissans is in 4th, then another Aston, and then it's Dumbreck coming under a bit more pressure from Fred Makovic. You're on board briefly here with Darren Turner. He sits in 3rd place, and understeer is certainly the killer here. I know they had a little bit of understeer they were dealing with, but they've got to look after the tyres in the races itself. He's got the Hexis Aston Martin just ahead of him.
He has, and this is sort of the turn 6, 7, and then it leads on to these very long left-handers, high-speed corners. They get up to sort of 5th, 6th gear at some points, and it's just being consistent. And this is something that Darren, especially, wealth of experience in these types of cars, is very, very good at.
Yeah, a solid result last weekend in Portimao to keep the championship chase alive from their point of view. And he's going after Clivio Piccioni, who's having a much better weekend this time. Bernaldi not really getting away from Muller. Now there's Makovic, He is now pretty close to the back of Peter Dumbreck's car. As we saw, he found a way past Michael Krum. Question is, can he do the same here on Dumbreck? Still about 7 minutes away from the pit window opening up, so there's time here for him to mount an attack on track before having to depend on the pit stops to try and help him out. But remember, the Nissan teams, both JR Motorsport and Sumo Power, are very, very fast on their pit stops. Well, it's nice to see some young viewers, some young spectators, some young fans enjoying the show as well, as the leaders are already back into the tight and twisty first section. Ben Oldie. Now look, Makavicki very close.
Very close, very good. The Ford seems to be very good under braking. This is that going into turn 3. We see, this is where I said before the Nissan struggles a little bit more, but that GT40, look at that, the front of that car, look, I think he's through.
He's gone through just like that.
Wow.
That was amazing. It was almost sort of on the exit of a corner rather than the entry.
It was. Well, again, the Nissan system's got to wait and wait and wait. And Makavicki has just been able to just get on with it and get on and go past. So you see the Nissan just goes wide, but it's waiting, and he's just able to slip past very easy. This is looking very promising.
I'll tell you what, though, I reckon the Nissans have thought about this before the race. There's his teammate, Max Martin, like that. And they've almost said, look, guys, if that Ford is coming through, we're not going to fight too hard because we know it's a quick car. What we're doing is looking after our own car and trying to get as many points as possible.
Look how he's pulled away as well. Yeah. He's closed the gap as well. Yeah. He's got a mighty quick car underneath him at the moment.
Well, the Ford guys did say if they were going to have a good race anywhere, it would be here. And it seems to be being proved by Fred Makavicki, but he's the only front-running Ford really still in it. Antoine Leclerc is down in 9th place, but not expected to do quite as well. He's not got the experience or the level that Makavicki's been showing. He's right there now with Alex Muller, and you're back on board with Fred Makavicki.
Yeah, so it's out of turn 1, this is turn 2, just a little left. And this is where up the inside, turn 3. This is where it's going to get more difficult as the drivers are sort of a bit more aware and probably are experienced drivers that know where you can and can't overtake, and just trying to put the car in the right place to stop that Ford getting by. But it's very, very difficult, as we've seen. This circuit is very challenging.
Yeah, great fun to watch, and good spectator venue as well. Got a lot of fans here. You can see how we're just going down the back of some industrial area here. So this circuit really in the middle of it. It's an industrial area and part of the town. They don't have many race meetings here at Sachsenring, partly because the neighbours are almost right on the circuit. So keep the noise problems down. They only run a few race meetings a year. And as we said, mostly it's a motorbike venue, but great to see World Championship level GT cars here as well. Back on board with Makavicki.
You can see the braking there. He seems to be able to close that gap, but he's also able to turn that steering wheel quite aggressively, but get the grip from those tyres. He's the fastest car on the track by quite a sort of a comfortable margin at the moment. So if he can just keep that pace up, keep that pressure on, he's still close enough to put the pressure under that Aston Martin in front to give him a chance to slip by, because turn 3 seems to be his absolute perfect corner for him.
So down the hill they come towards that turn 3, but I noticed that the Aston doesn't run as wide as the Nissan did. Exactly. It seems to have a bit more front end here. This is where Makavicki's so strong, but the Aston, they hit each other. Round goes Alex Muller. Now, he didn't do what the Nissans did when they saw the Ford coming, and why doesn't he brake? Because he's going to roll across in front of everybody there. Oh my goodness. Oh, he's found reverse anyway. That was all a bit hairy, wasn't it? Unnecessarily hairy.
Yes.
But what he didn't do was give up the place like the Nissans did. He decided to fight it here. Cuts in.
It's a tight one, you know. He's not ahead, he's still behind. The Aston has still sort of got the advantage, and he just clipped the back and pushed him round. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any...
That's the man who's taking over the number 7 car, Thomas Enger, and it's all the guys around him reacting, and he's impassive. Virtually impassive there.
So, there we go again. You'll see it's in just behind basically where the door handle is, so he's sort of still not far enough ahead, but he's not ahead to really sort of make that move and stick it there. You know, in some regard, maybe he should have backed out.
Okay, well, that's an interesting one. If he wasn't quite there, let's take another look from the onboard again, Johnny.
Yeah, the door's there, but it's sort of... It's very difficult from this camera shot. It's very difficult to know how long that exit is. And you've got to be very careful.
He doesn't know whether to applaud or not, because he now knows that might be under investigation, that little incident later on in the race. So we'll have to wait and see. But for the moment, Makavicki hasn't stopped charging. and he has now caught Enrique Bernoldi for 4th place. So this is the next one. Can he get past another of the Nissans? We've seen him pass 2 of them already, Michael Krum and Peter Tambrek. But now Makovic with the task of trying to get past this one of Enrique Bernoldi. On board we go again, and we're only just over 2 minutes away from the pit window opening up, and that of course could change everything. And interestingly, I noticed the Astons have caught the Lamborghini as we get to the time of the pit stops. And actually having a little look, that was Piccioni having a think about trying to take the lead. And no, I don't know whether Nicky Pastorelli's got a problem, but he's suddenly not going as quick as he was.
No, he definitely hasn't. No, it could be down to tyres, it could be down to the car's just sort of lost its edge and the balance is sort of going away from him. Now he's under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, both Aston Martins are there. And remember how fast the Hexis team it is, the guys that run that 2nd place car, they can be amazing on their pit stop. So to have a car right there already, I'll tell you what, they're going to be a big threat for the victory. And Nicky Pastorelli, as you say, does seem to be struggling a bit more compared to how he was early in the race. There again, he takes a slightly deeper line. You're on board with the 2nd placed car. What can we learn here? Let's just watch them both.
Well, you can see that the Aston is able to sort of carry that little bit more speed than the Lamborghini. So there does seem to be an issue with, I don't know, maybe tyres?
Perhaps.
Because it's very hard on these tyres because of those long, especially the right front, because obviously all these lefts that we're seeing now, it's left, then it's left again, and then it's left again after this. There's one little right, then followed by another 2 lefts. It's very hard on that right-hander.
Yeah. So this is the little right-hand kick they go through. As you say, there's another fast left-hander at the bottom of the hill here. So the gap between the top 3 has come down to well under a second at Piccioni. Oh, he had a little look up the inside for the lead there. But again, just about shut off. Pit window not quite open, but it might be for some of the guys maybe at the back of the queue, because when it gets to 35 to go, the pit window will be open. They've got to do another lap. Most of them will have to do another lap, but it is also a very tight pit lane here.
Absolutely, it's the perfect pit lane for a race because it's short, and when it's short, you want to get in as soon as you can. Still very, very close there into turn 1.
Yeah, not quite there for the Aston Martin of Clivio Piccioni, who's going to try and get past on this lap before they come in the pits. I'm sure we'll see some of these guys coming in, and whether the Aston stays out, I suppose, with clear air, we'll have to wait and see how they react to one another. But Pastorelli's still just leading.
Yeah, Nicky's doing a good job because he's sort of putting the car in the right place that is not really enabling that, or the 2 Aston Martins behind to sort of gain a slight advantage, especially into turn 3, that right-hander. You keep right, you can't go up the inside, as we've seen before.
Interesting, up on our timing screens, incident between car 7, that was Alex Muller, and car 41, Makovic. No further action. No further action. All 3 of these teams are ready for the pit stops. So we're going to see all 3 in at the same time. 3 different teams, obviously. You've got the ALINKL.com Munich Motorsport guys looking after the Lamborghini. You've got the Hexis guys looking after the Silver and Burgundy Aston, and the young driver team, the German team, home turf for them, looking after Darren Turners. Here we go. Pit battle coming up. Who's it going to be? I don't know. Let's see. Let's watch them. Now, the Hexis Aston will be going right to the far end of the pits before they stop.
Sure. Yeah, well, this is going to be all down to the crew. This is where there's a lot of hard work with all these pit stops that we're about to see, and it's going to be the guys that are the slickest.
So, the 2 wheel changes are ready to go. The driver helps one another. The drivers help one another get out, back in. And the wheel changes have got the speed off to such a fine art that the drivers are actually under pressure to get each other strapped in quickly enough to match the speed of the tyre change. So here at Young Driver, it's Darren Turner handing over to Stefan Mucker. Meanwhile, at Hexis, it's Clivio Piccioni handing over to the youngster, Steph Dusseldorf. And there at ALINKL, it's now Dominic Schwager in the car. Which one's going to be out first? Away goes the Hexis car. Away goes the Young Driver. I think Hexis have done it. And ALINKL have a problem. The early race leader's in trouble, and he's lost a huge amount of time. Out comes the Hexis car. They've done it again. That French team is astonishing on the stops, and it's Dusseldorf who gets out in front, and high fives all round at Hexis.
Oh, absolutely. I think, you know, there was pressure on there, and those guys really stuck to their guns, and they I've come out of that. Look
Stuck
at
to
that.
their
What a leg.
ankles.
Yeah, but come out of that with massive advantage. And as we saw, they had a very good speed just before those pit stops.
So Steph Dusseldorf has every opportunity now. Of course, we've still got a few people who haven't made their, quite a few people who haven't stopped yet. Makovic will be the interesting one, because Makovic now leads this race in that flying forward. Let's just see the reaction to that pit stop. Now, there was a bit of a discussion. Let's see, a bit of an argument down there, I gather, in the pits. What was this all about? So, the Nissan guys going over to the Lamborghini. So, I'm not quite sure what that was all about, but yeah, that was interesting. I think that was Dumbrek wasn't too happy, or this is live now. This is now the other car of Michael Krum, which is being handed over to Lucas Luhr, and Luhr is on his way. So it was Peter Dumbrek unhappy about something to do with the Lamborghini, but I don't know quite what the story was. Out, and this is a really good stop by the Nissan. The Hexis Aston still leads, but the Nissan, two Nissans get out ahead of the Aston. My goodness, by stopping later, that has been hugely beneficial. Stefan Mucker will try and attack the Nissan here. As he comes down the inside, he's going to try and go through, and he's got past. He's got past that car of Richard Westbrook, I think that is, and that was crucial that he managed to make the move. But up ahead of them is Warren Hughes in the other Nissan, and that stop worked well, but Stefan Mucker's still on tyres that are working well, and it might be tough here for Warren Hughes to defend the place.
Yeah, I think so. Well, again, coming out of the pits, he's trying to get used to the car, and of course the Aston there behind has done one lap with warmer tyres, and he's a bit more settled and stuff, so he's going to be just going to have to play this very coolly if he can.
Yeah, well, this is really good, and I wonder what this is going to mean about Makovic. That's going to be the big question. When Makovic makes his pit stop, that is the other Lamborghini in of the championship leaders, Basseng and Winkelhoff. Meanwhile, the other Sumo Power car of Jamie Campbell-Walter now is to hand over to David Brabham, the other Hexis Aston of Andrea Piccini, handing over to Christian Hohenadel. Can they repeat another brilliant pit stop? That looked very effective. Away goes David Brabham now, as the other Hexis car got out in front. So that's the car that leads. Second place, who's it going to be? The other Hexis car. It's going to be in the fight here for second place as he rejoins, but no.
He's going to squeeze.
He's going to come in between a couple of those Nissans, I think. And also rejoining there's David Brabham. Also, he didn't quite get into that same queue of cars, so he's at the
ahead of one.
Back of it,
He's ahead of one.
The Aston's got squeezed in front of one of the Nissans. That's the Lucas Luhr car. He's between Westbrook and Luhr. That was tight. Very, very tight, but just about managing to hold on there. Meanwhile, Warren Hughes has kept Stefan Mucker behind him on this lap, and that's crucial. And Warren Hughes, what a return to GT1 this is proving to be. A good stop for the Sumo Power team, and they also, with good strategy, have managed to get ahead of that Aston Martin. And effectively now, when all the pit stops have been made, I think we'll see that car of Hughes running in second place. The question is, does it have the race-long pace? Look, he was wide there, and that's where the Nissans struggle with their understeer.
Yeah, no, it's good of them. I'm glad Frederick Makowiecki hasn't had any further action from the stewards, which is great, because I think it's just one of those racing incidents. It was right on the edge, I think, of the incident, but they didn't give it a call in the stewards' room, which is good.
Dusseldorf has just set fastest lap in the Hexis Aston that's leading, so Makovic, I'm not sure that Makovic will be able to challenge for the race lead when he makes his pit stop, but I think he might well still be in amongst these guys after he stops. There is Makovic. When is he going to come in? He's got to come in pretty soon, because the pit window will close in about 3.5 minutes' time.
Yeah, it looks like the guys are in the pits already, so I reckon we're going to see an in-lap now, so he'll be pulling over to there. You go.
Big slide.
Shift,
that was neat and tidy, and he's up into the pits. So where will Makovic come back out? As we've said, there's no further action to be taken on that incident between him and Alex Muller, so it's a clean run, a clean fight to the flag here. Into the pit bay he comes.
So this is where the pressure of these guys, the drivers, you know, they've done this plenty of times, same as the as those tyre mechanics, but again, you just need to do it as slick quick as you possibly can, because we know how good those Hexus guys have been and showed once again.
So we wait now to see where the Hexus car is around the lap, waiting for... There you are. There's the other car of Steph Dusseldorf. This is the car that is effectively battling for the lead with... That was a good start. Now Max Martin gets going, and I tell you what...
I think he's okay.
They've got a chance of taking it. We're looking at our commentary box. I don't see the Aston Martin
there
yet.
Here it comes.
And here comes the Aston now. But look at the Ford coming down the pit exit. And the Ford could have it, but the Aston's going to have great speed down towards the first corner here. The Ford comes out in front. The Ford has done it. He's out in front of the Hexus Aston.
Fantastic.
But the Aston's flying. You're on board with Steph Dusseldorf. He's surely going to go straight on the attack here. He can't afford to wait. He's got to attack. But can he find a way past?
Well, this is where...
Oh, here we go! Side by side!
Side by side, no.
He's trying it, but Maxi Martin covers the inside.
Good
Martin
driving.
now cuts back. He spun off there earlier today in qualifying. Martin holds it this time.
Good driving. Again, that slow speed, if you keep on line, you can keep that car behind. That was tight, but he was able to do it. Now he's just got to get a nice constant rhythm on these fast, long left-handers.
Yeah, and get up to speed as quick as possible.
Absolutely.
And that Aston Martin, well, great job by the crew and by the driver, but that Ford just shows you how well Makovicky was driving by staying out there in clean air. That's what the Ford team did, the Mark VDS team. They left him out there in clean air to show the pace of that car. We know it's been fast all weekend, and he had a chance to show it, and what a great performance, and by the crew in the pits as well. So Hexus had a good stop, beating the guys that came in with them, but I'll tell you what, Mark VDS had a tremendous stop there, and they've got their man out ahead, and he's actually pulling away now. Look at this.
Already, I know exactly. You know, what we were saying at the beginning, this is going to be a tough one to overtake, and I think Frederick, in the beginning, just showed that it is possible.
It is possible when you've got a car that's really working. And Steph Dusseldorf sits in second place. Third place is Warren Hughes. He's some 8 seconds behind these guys. So Hughes is top Nissan in third. Stefan Mucker in the car he shares with Darren Turner is fourth. Richard Westbrook with Peter Dunbreck is in fifth place. Hohen Ardell's currently in sixth in the other Hexus Aston Martin. Seventh place for the Nissan of Lucas Law. Eighth for David Brabham. Ninth for Dominic Schwager in the Lamborghini that was leading this race early on. So the Al Inkle team, we knew it was a bad stop, but I hadn't realised it was quite that bad. They've gone from first to ninth in the Lamborghini, and that's miserable, isn't it?
Very, very miserable.
They're only just ahead of their teammates, Winkelhock and Basseng, actually, in the other car. They've been sort of down at the bottom end of the top 10 throughout this race so far. So real surprise. New fastest lap, by the way, for Thomas Enger, who's taken over from Alex Muller in the number 7 Aston, but he's all the way down in 13th after the spin when he was dicing with Fred Makovicky, when Muller was dicing with Makovicky earlier on. Well, draw breath time. I mean, things are beginning to settle down now, but you have to say, great performance by Mark VDS. They got him out ahead, but look how tight this was.
Oh, yeah, wonderful. But again, just perfect. You know, the speed that car has shown, the slickness of those pit stops as well. There you go, a nice bit of celebration in the pits, because they've done a cracking job being able to do that. Going back to the Al Winkle car, that had a problem in the pit stop. It seemed to be the left rear tyre, so they wasted time, or lost time, because they were having problems getting those tyres on, and down to ninth after all that hard work.
There's a bit of praying going on down there, because there's still quite a long way to go in this race. 24 minutes to go. Let's go down to the pits, hear from the man who won last time out at Portimao, now running 7th, Michael Crum.
Michael, can you explain what happened at the pit stop? I heard you were getting quite angry at the Al Inkle team.
Yeah, well, when I approached the pit box, it was my box was clear and everything was okay for a clean pit stop. And just when I approached, a guy from their team jumped out onto the pit road, and I had to basically avoid him, and then I couldn't make it into my pit box, and so we lost a lot of time during the pit stop. Unfortunately, we were planning to jump some positions at the pit stop, which was, I don't know why he did it, or if that was on purpose or not, I have no idea, but that's why we didn't really move forward.
Thank you.
So it was Michael Crum, sorry, my mistake there. Michael Crum, who was very unhappy about what was going on down there, and now we understand why, because there was someone in his way and he basically had to miss his pit box to do that. So, interesting. Meanwhile, there is our race leader. It is Maxime Martin, sharing the car with Fred Makowicki, and he's managed to pull out now, look, a 2.2-second lead over Steph Dusseldorp in the Aston Martin. Warren Hughes, meanwhile, has got a bit of a fight on his hands in third. Just to let you know, he's some way behind these guys, but Hughes has only 0.4 of a second advantage over Stefan Mucker's Aston Martin, who in turn's only 1 second ahead of Richard Westbrook. So there you are. That's Hughes in the Nissan, followed by Stefan Mucker. Not much to choose between them. Then the other Nissan of Richard Westbrook, who's also under pressure himself, from Christian Hohenadel in another Aston Martin.
Yeah, so we've got a nice two battles here, and it's, you know, it's getting tough now because obviously these guys just need to get the speed out of these cars, not make mistakes. If they make a mistake, they're going to lose a position.
On board with Christian Hohenadel. You've got plenty of Aston Martins up there in the front-running set, though. You've got three Aston Martins in the top 6.
Yeah, they've done very well, haven't they? They weren't expected to be quite as maybe competitive as this.
The only one that's not up there is the car that got spun around in that incident with Makowicki, the Engert Muller car. That's down in 13th. But all the other Astons in the top 6. This is the 6th place car, still chasing after Richard Westbrook. Westbrook knows how important it is to get useful points here today, and probably more important than the points, because you don't get many points in the qualifying race. You do get a decent grid position, though, for the championship race tomorrow, don't you?
Absolutely. And again, all important here at this track here at Sachsenring, for sure.
Yeah, it's a little bit like almost like a street track in some ways, in the difficulty of overtaking. I mean, we have seen a bit, but it is not at all easy. That's where the Nissan really struggles, goes very deep.
Yeah, it seems to be sort of, it just can't seem to pull itself across the track. A bit of oversteer there on the entry of that Aston Martin, but generally they seem to have a pretty good race balance, it seems.
Oh, and off goes one of the Lamborghinis, and I think that is the Max Nielsen car. Let's just check. Off he's gone into the gravel trap, through one of the fast left-handers, and the Marshals getting themselves well out of the way. Not too much danger yet. Is Max Nielsen in his Lamborghini, so he was running towards the back anyway, but sadly, a bit of damage done to that car. Back on board with Hohenadel, down the dip, back up slightly towards the left-hander. Reminds me of a sort of reverse version of the Hawthorne corner at Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, that one. And then up towards this last bend, which climbed quite steeply. Got to get good traction off the corner, vital. You can see the back of Westbrook's car just beginning to slide under acceleration.
Yeah, well, I think that Nissan's got a lot of torque in that engine, and I think it's quite difficult to get that torque actually onto the road. So
here's a move, Dominic Schwager down the inside of the Nissan of Lucas Law, and overtaking's possible, can be done. We've seen that just once or twice now into the first corner, and again Lucas Law didn't fight too hard. The Lamborghini under braking just had a lot more grip.
Absolutely.
Oh, he's got wide there, though.
Wide there, yeah.
And you can see the marbles.
Yeah, because these drivers, have got away with that. The drivers have been saying, if you just sort of go half a tyre off of line, you get all these marbles and the dirt onto your tyres, and then it gets quite tricky, as we saw the Fords earlier on in this weekend, where we had 3 of them go out. Qualifying, exactly. And at the end of the day, it's just you've got to keep yourself in your concentration so you don't wander offline.
This is Jan Claret, who's taken over from Antoine Leclerc, and he's trying to get past Marcus Winkelhock, championship leader, of course, with teammate Marc Bassin. They're carrying extra weight on board that car, and as they've told us, once you get into the longer stints in the races, that extra weight is hurting them. They're carrying some 45 kilograms, and we know the Ford is a good car here. It's leading, look at this, by 3.6 seconds now in the Mark VDS version from the Aston Martin. There's your big gap. Look, to 3rd place. There's Warren Hughes, with a chance, mind you, of getting a podium on his return in the qualifying race, which would be an outstanding result for him. Chased by Stefan Mucker, and then by Richard Westbrook, who's got the other Hexus Aston still breathing down his neck of Christian Hohenadel. And Hohenadel, the reigning GT3 European champion, who got that big opportunity to step up to the GT1 World Championship and has settled in very well to the team, I have to say. But he's now got to find a way past one of the wiliest campaigners, I would say, in Richard Westbrook.
Absolutely. You know, wealth of experience. Porsche Super Cup did absolutely fabulously well in that,
double
championship. Exactly. So, you know, he's got that type of the Porsches are quite sort of difficult cars to drive. You have to drive them right on the limit. And I think it sort of gives you an extra sense to when you drive these GT1 cars. And I think that's what Richard is able to put across when he drives this Nissan.
Yeah, and he's certainly enjoying himself, but he knew going into today that this was going to be a tougher battle than they had at Portimao, now. And right now, I think he'll be relatively happy with 5th place. He'd like to hold on to that if possible. Behind him, Owen Ardle. Schwager in 7th. Lucas Laura is still in 8th place. 9th for David Brabham, by the way, in the other Nissan. 10th for Winkelhock. 11th for Claire Reyes, you right on board with Owen Ardle. Still 13th is Thomas Enger. And they are the only runners now, 13 cars running. We lost the Corvette early on in this race. We lost the Bassliners Mark Henrici car right at the beginning in an incident that also took out the Vanina X Christopher Nygaard machine. And down the inside, Jan Claret had a little think about trying to pass Marcus Winkelhock there in the Lamborghini, but there wasn't quite the space, and sensibly I think Jan Claret backed out of it.
Yeah, definitely so, but I think what he's doing is just putting pressure on Marcus in front, and that Ford is looking again very good, especially under the braking. They seem to have a very good solid car under braking, which is enabling him to get very, very close. And if he gets close enough at those braking zones, I think he'll be able to slip past quite easy. This is sort of the start of the long left-hand fast corners. We've seen before that Ford has been pretty good on these, but it's very difficult to overtake, or more or less impossible to overtake. Fast corners is not really a place where you can, one, get close enough, and second, you can sort of slip up the inside, because you're just keeping a momentum going. The only chance is now this left-hander coming up, turn 12, but he's not going to be close enough here. But he seems to see braking, he gets closer, he gets a bit closer into the final turn itself, and as we saw on the previous lap, he's very close to getting up the inside of Marcus, but I'm not sure if he's going to quite get enough. We'll see if he gets enough drive out. But they're packing up, so actually this could work into a little sort of battle with 4 cars. And you've got to be very aware of what's going on in front, but also what's going on behind.
Yeah, this is going to be quite intriguing.
That Nissan again running wide.
Yeah, you've got just ahead. You've got David Brabham, and ahead of Brabham is Lucas Luhr in the other Nissan. Back on. This is on board with
Nissan. No, he runs a bit wide.
Winkelhock.
So he always opens the door.
Yeah, they just can't stay tight in the Nissan. No. They have to sort of take 2 chunks at it, don't they? Whereas some of the cars are able to stay tight to the apex there, but no way through for the moment. So Lucas Luhr at the front of the queue in the first of the JR Motorsport Nissan. Then you've got the Sumo Power, the white and black Nissan of David Brabham. Then the Winkelhock Lamborghini, and now on board once again the Ford here of Jan Claret. So 2 Nissans, 1 Lambo and 1 Ford. Yeah, there's some upset down there. Mark Basseng, who's driver but also team manager there at Al Inkle, just reassuring one of the mechanics. And I don't know whether that goes back to the incident with Michael Krum or whether that's something separate. I have no idea, but obviously something's been happening down there. And, well, maybe we'll find out a little bit later on. Lucas Luhr still at the front of this little queue. But remember, this is for 8th place only. I say only, still valuable places to be found on the grid in the championship race, but no points on offer here for 8th place in the qualifying race. Across the line they come, and back on board with Marcus Winkelhock, part of that team that we saw those 2 guys talking about just a moment ago. Brabham going quite defensive there.
Very defensive, yeah.
Don't quite know why, because the car, Lamborghini wasn't close.
No.
So whether Brabham's got a problem that he's trying to protect himself from, and it's allowed the Ford again to get even closer behind him. And surely
wide again, but I think he's quite enough there.
Yeah, very, very close. And that Ford of Jan Claret, he's also desperate to get through.
Yeah, and he's just keeping that pressure on. And you never know, David's a wily old driver, wealth of experience, but you just keep that pressure on, and he's in a car that's probably not quite handling as he wants. And if you just put enough pressure on, you never know, you can just sort of make him just a little bit too wide, slip up the inside, and hopefully get past. But you've just got to keep that pressure on.
Lovely flame out on the Lamborghini.
Yeah.
From the good view from on board the Ford. Up front, just to remind you, it's still the Ford GT of Maxime Martin that leads this race by some 3.6 seconds, and he's maintaining the pace at the moment very consistently. So the Dusseldorf Aston is still in 2nd place. Warren Hughes still 3rd in his Nissan. We're focused on this race for 8, 9, 10 and 11. Because this is where most of the action is. You're on board again.
A bit of a slide. He didn't quite get on the power very good there, so he's close enough. Is he going to get up the inside?
It's going to take a bit of a lunge if he's to do it.
No.
And in fact, the Lamborghini covers the inside.
It does.
Sort of aware that he hadn't had the best exit out of that last corner, so he made sure that there wasn't too much space available. This left-hander here even goes on longer than you expect, doesn't it?
It certainly does, yes. And that Ford is able to sort of really keep nice and tight to those curbs there. And that Ford obviously is working very well. Martin...
Oh, he spun it! Ha! He spun it! It's working so well, Johnny, that he's just lost the back end. Talk about cursing the commentator. It's usually me that does that. Nice one.
Oh, dear. God,
but that's what we saw this morning with this Ford. You know, it's very fast, but it's edgy. And exactly the same thing happened to Vanina X. It happened to Maxime Martin. This is actually where Maxime Martin lost it, isn't it, this morning?
Yeah. Seems if he runs wide, you can see little bits sort of rubber bouncing around. Just wonder if again, like I was saying earlier on, he just put his wheel out a little bit too far. He's trying to go right. Let's have a look. So he's wider, a little bit wider maybe.
Oh, when it goes, it goes.
Yeah.
Dan McGears is pretty quick to react. Touchdown.
I think he's lost what, two places there.
Yeah, and that's a chance. Shame it spoiled that. What was a very entertaining tussle there. Meanwhile, Westbrook still in 5th. Honardel in 6th behind him. This is the race, though, for 3rd between Warren Hughes in the other Super Power Nissan here and Stefan Mucker. Now, I have to say, Warren Hughes is driving a stunning race so far. Can he hold on for another 12 minutes? Returns to GT1, having been not selected for duty this year, having raced with them last year, wasn't selected. Ricardo Zonta got the seat alongside Enrique Vidaldi. But Zonta's not here this weekend. Warren's been called back up. I tell you what, this is impressive, both what he did in qualifying and what he's doing right now.
Absolutely. Again, he hasn't been in the car for a while, but he's got straight back into it. Yeah, he knows the car, but that's different. These guys have been racing and they know exactly where this car has developed from last year. And Warren is just coming in, and they've actually really got it by the scruff of the neck and has done a fantastic job. Very pleased for him.
He locks up a front wheel there. That won't help him. But, yeah, I mean, he's driven just about everything you can drive in motor racing terms. Of course, done a lot of touring cars. Raced a touring car here in Germany at the Sachsenring many years ago, but it's an occasion he'd rather forget, to be honest.
Well, he did forget.
He did forget. Yeah, he said he can't even remember the circuit. No. But he did get knocked out.
He did, yeah.
So you can't really blame him for that. And he's determined to make up for it here. He's still holding 3rd from Mucker. There is Westbrook, still with Honardel behind. And who's catching them? That's Dominic Schwager, catching them in the Lamborghini. Remember, that was the car that had the lead earlier on, but had a horrible pit stop.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe that probably is why Marc Basseng was reassuring the guy in the pits earlier. It's because they lost the lead.
They lost, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's what it was all about. Here we go with Honardel.
Seems to be he's losing. He's actually slowing up, it seems, that Nissan in front. They've actually dropped back. So he's just got to keep it going. 10 minutes to go.
Let's get down to the pits. Haley can tell us more about that Alenco pit stop.
Mark, what happened at the incident that was going on in the pit lane? I understand that the engineer may have been hit.
Yeah, I heard that, but everything is okay. We messed up a little bit the pit stop because my real pit stop guy is completely sick, and the guy who's doing it now for us is from Phoenix Racing, where I'm racing for Audi with. So, but you see, the competition is so high, and if you are not 100% on the edge, you don't make it, because our cars are so quick now in the race, and it's a big shame. I think I had a good chance to win.
Thank you.
Well, interesting to hear that, and sorry to hear that their main wheel changer is unwell this weekend. But as he says, it just goes to show that those guys are just as important as the drivers. So you know they are so valuable, those wheel changers, to get it right. Oh, that was a little bit of a lock up there from Westbrook. Meanwhile, Honardel under pressure from the Lamborghini of Schwager. This is Schwager really getting in there now.
Yeah, this is where Richard, again, his experience, he just knows that he's just got to be consistent, not make errors. If he doesn't make errors, it doesn't matter almost how slow he goes. Those guys won't be able to pass. So, again, thinking about it and doing a good job in that and reacting to the actual conditions that he's got with the car.
But look how the last few laps that Lamborghini has closed up by 4 tenths and 6 tenths of a second. I mean, the Lamborghini is definitely one of the fastest cars. The mid-engine configuration in both the Ford and the Lamborghini seems to suit the circuit. Good direction change, good traction, and it seems to work well here.
Yeah, absolutely. I said the only thing we hear about the Lamborghini is on its first couple of laps, or first lap, it struggles a little bit with the front tyre. Another lock up there, but after that, it then can actually settle down and seems to have a good balance and seems to be suited here.
Hughes has obviously got a flat spot on that left front, and of course now every time he gets back on the brake, the tyre has a tendency to stop in the same place, and I suppose the worry there is that he's going to wear it out before we get to the checkered flag. Still in third at the moment, from Stefan Mucker in fourth. Then this gap back to Westbrook, and then Hohenadel. Here comes Dominic Schwager, but not really.
No, not at the moment. No, Maxime Martin is amazing how he's, you know, he had his little spin in qualifying, which lost them out. Still fighting, getting nice and close there. Turn 3, don't think there's going to be an issue here. As I said, Richard will just be very careful where he puts the car.
Yeah.
But Maxime he's probably half a second to 0.8 of a second quicker per lap, so he's just extending that lead quite comfortably.
Yeah, it's up to 5.6 seconds the lead now, so that's a massive margin.
Considering where they started.
Yeah, particularly considering he must be looking after the tyres now and not really pushing that hard. Yeah. So that just shows you how quick the Ford is. Back on board with the Aston Martin here of Hohenadel tucked in behind Westbrook. Remember, they're racing for 5th place here, and it looks as though that Hohenadel's definitely got a quicker car, but he's got to find a way through. Now, does Warren Hughes lock up this time? No, he doesn't this time. First time in 3 laps. He's managed to look after that front tyre a little bit more, but difficult when you've got that kind of flat spot like that. Westbrook behind with the Aston Martin and the Lamborghini not so close on this lap, Dominic Schwager, so whether he made a mistake there somewhere or was just getting himself ready for a final attack, because we've got under 7.5 minutes to go in the qualifying race here, and they're all going to have to try and put something on the table now if they're going to make any more moves, because the laps are ticking away. Still fighting for grip up at the first corner, and then plunging back down the hill once again. Westbrook's knows this is the weakest area for the Nissan, so he just has to tread so carefully. Gently with the steering, gently on the throttle. No traction control to help him. So easy to spin up those rear wheels.
Oh, well, it's very difficult to stop them. Once they've spun, it's very difficult to stop those things. But what I sort of noticed, when Stefan is getting quite close to the back end there of Richard, doesn't seem to have quite the same straight line speed, which doesn't seem to enable him to be close enough at the right places to be able to slip up the inside, especially when he comes out of the last corner into turn 1. You can just always see that Richard just pulls away very slightly, never gets quite close enough.
Well, that was certainly evident at Portimao. The Nissan has great power, a lot of grunt from that V8 engine, and although they may not have the nimbleness sometimes, certainly in the tightest corners, somewhere like Portimao, they were able to use all their best bits, and that's why they dominated. But here, it's a different story at Sachsenring,
so
as we can see.
Turn 1, so he gets quite close here, but then just see on the sheer acceleration. But there you go, it seems to then it pulls away and he just cannot really get close enough into turn 1.
Schwager again just ducks out of the slipstream, back into it again. Nissan versus Aston versus Lamborghini in this particular 3-way tussle. Oh, and there was a chance, I wondered there for Hohenadel. They were almost pushing each other round that turn 1, turn 2 section. Westbrook tight wide up the inside. Here comes the Aston. Oh, he's got a chance now, but Westbrook's got the inside line. Nowhere for the Aston to go.
No, exactly. I think Richard's just trying to keep behind. I think that's what happened in turn 1. He tried to really pack him up and slow him up. Yeah. Maybe he overdid it because he nearly lost out by doing that.
Yeah, what he wants is for the Lamborghini to start giving the Aston so much grief that he can then make a little bit of an escape. But that's fair tactics. Yeah. But Hohenadel's got to deal with that and at the same time try and get past. No way through just yet. So up over the rise they come once more. Back down the hill through the right-hand kick. Lovely section of track this. And again that lock-up from Warren Hughes ahead of them.
Consistent.
Yeah, with under 5 minutes to go. Westbrook from Hohenadel and Dominic Schwager, the early race leader, remember, that number 37 Lamborghini, until the horrible pit stop that they suffered. They've still got a chance of getting a point out of this race. Only down to 6th place, though, that you get a point in the qualifying race at the moment. They're 1 place behind that, but look at him get closer and closer. On the run down to turn 1, will he cut back to the inside? He's having a little look down the inside.
He's there.
He's got it. He's into 6th place, but he might run wide. Hohenadel tries to cut back, no way through.
Great move.
The Lamborghini has got it to 6th, and patience has paid off.
Certainly has, and great job. You know, it's been difficult for them, and they've got back into it. Possibly now, you know, Richard's under pressure again. but unfortunately from another car.
Yeah, now that might be different because, of course, he's able to fend off the Aston because of the relative strengths, but it may be different with the Lamborghini.
Yeah, I think the strength of this Lamborghini, especially in braking, seems to be very good. The Aston's not quite as good, but I think we've got the speed. I think the speed generally is not so bad, is it, from the Lamborghini? So, but again, it's got to be a bit quick in the right places. These fast ones is this left there, then there's the right kink. Down the straight, so if you can get close enough here, it's possible overtaking.
Another puff of blue smoke. Yeah, we're getting used to that little blue smoke puff every time down there from that left front locked by Warren Hughes, who's still in third place, by the way. The Hughes-Benoldi Nissan looking at a potential podium, but the Lamborghini's the one on the move here. It's got
what traction he's got.
Yeah, should be good.
Generally, yes, and this is where the Nissan generally is not. And straight line speed. He's got a good straight line speed.
Not bad, but the Nissan is very good, as we know, in a straight line. So into turn one, and not this time.
Not this time, but I think he can see as well that Nissan really
he's got a
run wide again. That was nice by Richard. He was he protected it very cleanly, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, again, if anything, he's going to back the Lamborghini into the Aston Martin, and the Aston's going to try and take him back again.
So very thinking a lot, which is really good, because he knows they can't pass him there if he keeps himself on the right line.
This is driving as an art. This is race tactics, isn't it?
Absolutely. And again, it's quite rare. You don't always see these drivers have those race crafts. And it's good to see when we see this sort of panning out that way, where Richard is really having to think about where he puts that Nissan on the racetrack.
Yeah, it's always much nicer to be chasing and closing on a group ahead of you, but here he's got to try and stay in front.
It's a lot easier.
Yeah, a lot easier than what he's having to do here, Still in fifth place at the moment, though, just over 2 minutes to go, and it looks as though it's going to be a dominant victory for the Ford of Max Martin and Fred Makovicky, which has a 6.7-second lead over the Aston Martin of Steph Dusseldorf and Clivio Piccioni. The Nissan of Warren Hughes still running. Oh, Mucke is in third. They've just come past us, and Stefan Mucke is in third place. Warren Hughes has lost third place. Westbrook is still here in fifth, but he might not be for much longer. Here comes the Lamborghini down the inside. He's gone off. He's gone too wide. He locked up, and off goes Schwager. And Westbrook still has it from the Aston of Hohenadel. They're touching, almost touching, surely.
Is it being
Hohenadel. Well, he nearly ploughed into the back of the Nissan there, didn't he? So we do have changes.
Now, that was a very unfortunate thing. The Lamborghini was able to get down the inside. I think he'd seen how slow Richard was into turn one. Unfortunately, just locked up that inside wheel and couldn't stop.
No, that's right. So, Westbrook just fending off this Aston Martin, but Warren Hughes, in the meantime, has lost a place to the other Aston Martin, the one belonging to Stefan Mucke and Darren Turner. We're on to the final lap because Maxime Martin has already crossed the line. Second place at the moment for Steph Dusseldorf. His teammate here, though, Hohenadel, still trying to get past Westbrook. Westbrook having to go ultra defensive now.
Closest he's been as well, but we've got only one turn. Again, not quite close enough to get up the inside. I don't think he'll get a chance in the start finishing line.
But here comes Maxime Martin, and what a beautiful drive this has been from these guys. They went off in qualifying this morning, and they ended up 14th on the grid on a track on which we thought overtaking would be virtually impossible. Well, what do we know? Because they have come through. Good strategy in the early part. Oh, here comes Hohenadel, still having a chance to get past Westbrook. Can he do it on this last lap? Westbrook's just trying to nurse that Nissan, trying to go. Oh, he's there! He's got it!
Through!
Hohenadel has taken Westbrook on the very last lap, and there was nothing Westbrook could do in the end. He just didn't have the grip.
He just didn't seem to be able to turn the car at all, did he?
Amazing.
Unbelievable. But this is part of what it's all about. You've got to, try, even when the car's bad, you've got to even back off a bit and try and put the car in the right place.
Coming through to win the qualifying race at the Sachsenring. It is Maxime Martin, Fred Makovicky in the Ford GT. A dominant performance from 14th on the grid. Second goes to Steph Dusseldorf and Clivio Piccioni in the Aston Martin of the Hexis team. Third is going to be another Aston, and only in the last couple of laps, because Stefan Mucke managed to find a way past Warren Hughes. There is Mucke in the background crossing the line. Aston Martin second and third in the qualifying race. Warren Hughes survives to fall, still a great effort from him. And as we saw, the Nissans right at the end there were hanging on to stay on the track. And indeed, Hohen Ardel comes home in 5th. Westbrook takes 6th place. 7th, I think, is going to go to the Lamborghini, yes, of Dominic Schwager. Brabham finishes 8th. Winkelhock is 9th. And Thomas Enger made up some places towards the end there and finished in 10th place in his Aston Martin. But my goodness, what drama right to the end in those other little races that were going on. But no dramas at all for Maxime Martin. Not once they got in front after the pit stop. That Ford just looked the class of the field, Johnny.
Well, it looked sweet, didn't it? It just seemed to have everything. It seemed to have a great front end, he had a great rear end, and it just was able to just, early on in the race anyway, blast past people quite comfortably, which was nice. Then once it got in the lead, the consistency, as I said, it was like half a second to 8/10 of a second per lap.
It's amazing. So Maxime Martin there, redressing the balance after his falling off this morning in qualifying. I'm sure he wasn't too impressed with himself for that, and I bet he will apologise to the team. Well, he's more than made up for it, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And again, it's some of the drivers, sometimes that pressure as they see the lead car go over the line, and it's good to see that he's just put that to the back of his mind and done a cracking race.
Yeah, Fred Makovicky and the guys there celebrating as he went over the line in that win, which was by 6.6 seconds in the end, and he wasn't pushing hard in the latter few laps, so that's a very, very impressive margin. But the fastest lap of the race, interestingly, went to Thomas Enger on lap 22, a 1:19.8 clear air after the pit stop, so good effort that by Thomas, showing that he had pace. And as I say, Thomas went from 13th at one point to finish in 10th. So if they hadn't been spun out, ironically, by this car, if you remember, when Makovicky was driving it. And also, interestingly, the race director decided that it was a racing incident and didn't take any further action. If that had been called differently, well, it could have been another story.
Another story.
So into the pits comes the race-winning car then. It's the second time this car has won a qualifying race this year, but they haven't won a championship race, and that's where the big points are on offer. They do win 8 points by taking the success in this race, but tomorrow, of course, there's 25 points on offer for the victory. Well done to the Hexis pairing of Dusseldorf and Clivio Piccioni, and the other Aston Martin, the young driver team, the German-based team. They've got their car home third here. Look at that! Maxime Martin and Fred Makovicky. They got split apart last weekend because Fred was off racing somewhere else. I think Maxime's very happy that the relationship has been restored for the weekend.
It certainly has. I think that was a great for them. It's a very good thing for them for the coming race.
Steph Dusseldorf, a lovely job by him. And I tell you what, the Hexis team got him out in front. He put in some very quick laps, but by leaving Makovicky out in that pit stop phase, that was how Mark VDS won this race. You know, that was clever strategy. They left him out there when everyone else was stopping, and the clear run that Makovicky was able to enjoy at that point, those key laps, was how they built their margin.
Absolutely, and again, we saw the pace sort of in the first part of qualifying, then we never was able to see it again. And I think that was just the perfect style to do it in. You had an opportunity, they grabbed it by the scruff of their neck, they put those lap times together, as you say, Ben, and that gave them the race.
Yeah, well deserved. Yeah. So there you are, Maxime Martin on the right, the Belgian, and Fred Makovicky, the Frenchman, with a Polish name, as he was telling us yesterday. He has Polish family who he never really gets to see. His immediate family come from the northern part of France, although he lives in Paris, but very aware of his Polish roots. But he's a very experienced driver nowadays, 30 years old, and he races all over the place in different GT championships. He's got an incredibly busy programme this year. I mean, he's racing virtually every weekend, I think, throughout the summer.
Yeah, which is nice. It's nice for these guys to be able to do that in a sort of different variants of cars, and it's good experience. He may be 30, but it's still a good experience to have.
Yeah, he raced for Hexis last year and won the last race of the year. There's Steph Dusseldorf getting congratulated for a fine second place there with Clivio Piccioni. And it's a real return to form for those guys because they won the championship race in Abu Dhabi. Zolder was sort of middling, and then last time Portimao was really a bit horrible for them. They got involved in a couple of first lap accidents, which weren't really their fault, but you know, it happens. But now they're really back on it again, which is lovely to see. And the Mark VDS team, well, for Mark van der Straten and the guys, it's really a been a superb day. OK, they lost their other car on the first lap, if you remember.
Sure.
So not totally superb. They could have had it better with Mark Kenerici and Bas Leinders, but more than made up for, I suppose, by winning with Martin and Makovic.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it wasn't their fault they got taken out. It wasn't as if they caused it. They were unfortunate taken out and then got that impact on the side, which stopped them completely.
OK, let's go down to the pits now and hear from our race winners.
Congratulations, Maxime. Once again, the Ford GT delivered here in the Sachsenring.
Yeah, after a very bad qualifying, we started quite far. And Fred did an amazing job, so it's really nice. And the pit stop was really good, so we can win this first race, and we hope to be as good as tomorrow.
And it was so good to watch you out on track today, Fred. How was it for you in the Ford?
Yeah, it shows that we are really fast on this track. After I start a little bit difficult, I can come back. And the guy doing really good pit stop, and Max finished the job. It's perfect for us after the start of the championship, a little bit difficult.
Thank you, guys.
Big smile there from Fred Makovic. And I bet Maxime Martin, when he had that Aston bearing down on him after the pit stop, and he came up to this section of track where he spun off this morning, he must have been thinking, don't lose it now, don't lose it now.
That I'm sure. And he didn't.
He didn't.
He learned from that experience.
Yeah. OK, let's go and hear from the guys who finished second. Another good performance from Steph Dusseldorp and Clivio Piccioni.
What a performance, Steph. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful result. The Ford was just too quick today, but with the second position we scored the points, no weight, and we have a good point for tomorrow to battle again for the victory.
And Clivio, once again, you must have had the best pit stop in the pit lane.
I don't think it was the best. We had a bit of a problem, but it was quick enough to be out in the lead, but not quick enough to stay in front of the Ford. So tomorrow we'll give it maximum.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, it was quick enough to beat the other guys they came in with. Maybe it didn't get them out ahead of Makovic, but
I don't think it would have done.
I'm not sure it would have done, because that Makovic car had so much pace on the track, didn't it? So I think Hexis still did a pretty blinding job on their pit stop. And another great result for Stefan Mucker and Darren Turner. They came home third in the young driver Aston Martin.
Congratulations, Stefan. It was certainly some fantastic racing out there. How was it fighting through the pack?
Yeah, it was quite interesting. Nissan was very strong on straights and also quite good in the fast corners. We were catching up a little bit in slow corners, so it was difficult to overtake. I managed it 2 laps before the end of the race. Nice move, and he was also fair. So it was good racing out there, and I mean, third place, very good for tomorrow.
And Darren, you were buzzing when we spoke to you after qualifying. How are you feeling now?
That wasn't as sort of exciting for me in the race. I mean, I just kept myself out of trouble, and towards the end of the stint, it looked like we were all sort of bunching up, and the lap in was quite slow. So I think that's what sort of meant that we were out of sync with everyone else when they pitted a bit later. So we were lucky to get third. Stefan did a good job, got past obviously the Nissan, and now at least we were on the inside for the next start, and hopefully we can pick up some points tomorrow.
Yeah, Stefan, you will be starting from the second row, which is definitely what you need going into that first corner here.
Yes, definitely, and also it's we are on the inside, which is always good. We have seen it's quite difficult, and it's also very dirty there, but I think we will be all right for tomorrow.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we saw one incident, of course, at that first corner, but thankfully not too much drama. And why? Just explain to us, Johnny, why do they like being on the inside?
Well, it's just a bit easier because obviously you want to protect, and it's much harder for these guys to go around the outside. So obviously if you protect on the inside, it's a lot easier. But like they just said, it's more difficult a little bit sometimes because it's a little bit more dirtier. And when it's dirtier, it's very difficult to stop the car, but it just makes it more difficult for the other guys.
Mark van der Straten, the team boss, he's a keen photographer, so he's been busy making the most of a very successful day in the qualifying race here. Let's confirm the result then. It is a win for Ford, as they did in the Abu Dhabi qualifying race. Martin and Makovic take victory from Aston Martins of Piccioni and Dusseldorp, and behind them Stefan Mucker and Darren Turner. Then the first of the Nissans, which was driven by Warren Hughes and Enrique Bernoldi, so still a great return to the series. 5th place, the Aston Martin of Hohenadel and Piccini, the Hexis car. 6th place, in the end, Westbrook. He fought hard for 5th, but had to give it up in the last lap. 7th place, the Lamborghini that led earlier on of Schwager and Pastorelli. In 8th place, then the other Sumo Power car of David Brabham and Jamie Campbell-Walter. Ninth position for the championship leading Lamborghini of Marcus Winkelhock and Mark Basseng. Struggling a bit, but staying out of trouble. 10th place for the Enger Muller Aston, which suffered a spin, got knocked into a spin earlier on. Luhr and Krum, winners last time out, were only 11th here today. 12th place for Wendlinger and Cox, who started at the very back of the grid for this one. 13th place for the Belgian Racing Ford of Leclerc and Claret. 14th place for Max Nielsen and Jiri Janat, but they went out, classified 16th, but also out of the race, Hazemans and Katzberg. So let's go and see what Mark van der Straten can say about this. It's going to be translated by Vanina X for us. Let's go to Haley.
Congratulations, Mr. van der Straten. You must be proud of the team today.
Félicitations, vous devez être fier de l'équipe aujourd'hui.
L'émotion me touche énormément.
A big emotion, of course.
C'est vrai que quand on voit les choses se passer comme ça, ça fait gros chaud au cœur.
It's very good for the heart when you see things happening like this.
Et une fois de plus, on constate que toute la famille est très unie.
The big family is united. One more time.
Et qu'une fois de plus aussi, si la famille est très réunie, les pilotes ont vraiment des outils pour faire de belles choses.
And once more, the drivers have the tools to do good things.
Vanina n'a peut-être pas réussi aujourd'hui, mais le fera demain, on en est certain.
I didn't succeed today, but tomorrow's another day.
Et aussi, il faut constater quand même le retour de Mako et de choses. Et de
It's great
Maxime.
to have Maxime and Frédéric back on the podium.
Revenir de tellement loin et là, c'était imparable, c'est formidable pour nous. Ça met
It's
du
just
beau au cœur.
wonderful.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys, and I wish you luck tomorrow, Vanina. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Vanina. Doing an excellent job. She could take that up as a day job, do translations as well as her job in the car. Let's see what it means in terms of the points. Basseng and Winkelhock didn't score any there, but they still lead the championship. But Düsseldorf and Piccioni did score some points, so that puts them back into second place. And in fact, Krum and Luhr, who were in second, have been demoted further there by Stefan Mucker and Darren Turner, who are still very threatening in there. They're in third. So top Nissan is the Krum-Luhr car. Then Honard and Piccini, they've moved up too. But some of those that didn't score here, and they need to do something tomorrow. Thomas Enger and Alex Muller, of course, they were fast. Maxime Martin now on 27 points. Remember, he's on 1 point more than teammate Makabicki because they weren't together last time out at Portimao. And just looking further on down the points table there, Enrique Bernoldi getting some points here today, courtesy of the work that both he and Warren Hughes did. So that's the team situation now. Hexis are in front. They were only 1 point ahead before that race. They've now opened it up again slightly, 6 points ahead of JR Motorsports. Then Young Driver third, a point behind. Also close, Al Inkel. Mark VDS, a much better day for them, so they've got themselves up the order slightly ahead of Swiss Racing Team, Sumo Power and Belgian Racing. So an excellent qualifying race, certainly from the Mark VDS team. Let's take another look at the start of that race, Johnny. Of course, while it was good for Ford in the end, it didn't start very well for Ford this race, did it?
No, not at all, no. You see that yellow, you just see that yellow car there, and you can see wiggle there, a bit of a lock-up, still wiggling. It just taps the back of that Ford, which just puts it into a spin. There you go. And then, unfortunately, the teammate of the other GT40 then slams into the side of that. So it was just horrible. This is the situation with all these starts, as we see it once again. Is the tyres are still a little bit cold. All the drivers are really wanting to do the best start that they possibly can, and you just overstep that mark. And again, you'll see it again. There you go. There's the first sort of wiggle, the puff of smoke. And then it's literally impossible to stop the car because your braking zone has actually gone completely different. You see all the other cars.
Yeah, including Fred Makavicki, who went around the outside. I mean, he could easily have got taken out in that.
Oh,
himself,
absolutely, yeah.
So we could have ended up with 3 Fords off in one place, but thankfully that didn't happen. But when you remember that Belgian Racing is actually a sister team to the Mark VDS team, you know, it really wasn't a great start to the day for them. But thankfully things turned around.
Yeah.
And Makavicki and Martin were able to convert it into a race victory, despite having been right at the back, as you saw there, where they came round. They only just avoided that incident themselves. So it all turned around from the point of view of the Ford GT team. Aston Martin's went well throughout. Let's take a little look back over the highlights of today's race. So good conditions here for the start of the championship race, and we saw some pretty feisty action in the early stages. Unfortunately, we lost 2 Fords, though, very early on. A couple of cars had to take to the grass in avoidance, but both one Belgian car, the car that Vanina X was due to take over, and the Mark Henrici Bastlinder's car also out of the race. Then we saw the Corvette. It was going well until he lost it under acceleration. He just gained a place, Nicky Katzberg, but sadly a bit too much right foot on the throttle, and round she went, much to the astonishment of people watching. But Fred Makovicky was definitely the guy to watch on board the Ford GT. In the early stages of the race, he was beginning to pick them off one by one and beginning to get that Ford into a potential challenging position. Lamborghinis, well, they were variable depending on which team you were with. Mike Hasemans, of course, never got to drive his Corvette after the spin that Nicky Katzberg suffered, and there another view of how that went wrong for Nicky Katzberg. So this was the move that Makovicky made on the number 7 Aston of Alex Muller, but that was deemed to be a racing incident as he tried to get alongside the Aston, and the race director felt that was okay. Maxime Martin applauding his teammate, and meanwhile this was the Hex's Aston Martin on a charge. We got to the pit stops then, crucial round of pit stops, and the Hex's Aston Martin came in the middle of that group, but Michael Krum was not very happy about what Al Inkel had been doing, getting what he felt was in his way. After those pit stops, well, we saw Fred Makovicky making a later stop than everyone else. It was at this point that Makovicky was lapping very, very quickly, and really that was where he set up the race victory. This was a spin for the number 10 Ford, just getting out of shape. We saw that a couple of times, not so easy when they're right on the edge, but the Hexis cars, the Aston Martins, were flying throughout. Couldn't quite fend off that Ford after the pit stops, and it was victory for the number 41 car of Fred Makovicky and Max Martin. They took the victory here today, but can they do it again in the championship race tomorrow? I hope you'll join us then to find out. For now, from Sachsenring, goodbye.